In Search of Darkness, 1995 to 1999.
And
For those of you,
that movie documentary is actually 4 years long, right?
well,
So
it's
yeah.
actually 6.5 hours. Yes, it is very long.
Jesus.
I know I've talked about the original In Search of Darkness, which was like a
Mm-hmm.
best of the 1980s horror. And it was, I mean, all these movies are all like 6 hours long. And the 80s one, especially if you look on Rotten Tomatoes, like the first one gets 100%, the second one gets like 80, and the third one gets like 60. Because as you get through 6 hours of movies in a decade, they tend to be the bottom of the barrel when you get to the last series. This
Makes sense.
series is only two seasons, or should I say two movies. You've got 90 through 94 and 95 through 99. I have not seen 90 through 94 because it hasn't dropped on Shutter yet. So I'm watching this one. I figured it didn't matter to watch them out of order. And what I confirmed with this movie is that there is a wasteland of bad horror movies in the 1990s. I
Yeah.
mean, this is, the cream of the crop, so to speak, because I mean they could potentially do another one, but this is supposedly the best. And occasionally they'll have one like Scream or the movie Seven or even the Blair Witch Project for you folks out there that like that movie. So there's gems. Spaced out. There's gems in between, but you've also got I Know What You Did Last Summer and that kind of stuff too. It's directed by David A. Weiner or Weiner. Weiner. That's I'm going to say Weiner. And David A. Weiner directed all these movies. I've got that the consensus is that this is the worst of all the documentaries. And like I said, it is 6.5 hours long. So I watched it in stages. I watched it in like hour-long stages over a week.
Mm-hmm.
There is some great commentating on this, though, which is what make these documentaries for me when they have good people talking about the movies. Some of the good ones in this one are Charles Band, Doug Bradley, Pinhead himself, John Carpenter, David Dasmalchian, Ernest Dickerson, Mike Flanagan, and Mick Garris. So a broad scope of directors, actors, kinds of thing as far as
Mm-hmm.
commentating. The synopsis is exploring the late 90s horror, covering the meta slasher boom, techno horror, teen screams. It includes movies like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer, and Ringu. It features interviews with horror icons and expert commentary covering the era's cultural, social, and technological trends, which is another reason why it's interesting because it is a slice of history as well,
Of
what's
course.
going on at the
Yeah.
time. Like a lot of stuff about OJ, why is this in this movie? Well, it was around the time the OJ Simpson stuff was going on, that kind of thing. I've got that neither of these 1990 installments of the In Search of movies are even on Rotten Tomatoes. I'm guessing the reviewers gave up because the length of the film was so long. I don't know. But
Hmm.
I'm going to watch them all because I'm a completist. So there. That's what I did
You're
in
going to
my
watch them
genre
all.
week.
Interesting. Do you think the drop in quality was because we had had 2 decades of great horror movies? Like the 70s and 80s have some of the best horror movies of the past century. So,
Yeah, and that would make a good documentary in itself, going from genre to genre by decade, like we do on the podcast,
yeah.
because 90s was the introduction to CGI. So some of it just looks terrible.
Well, and I also think people wanted to get on, quote, the horror train, but they didn't want to put the money or the creativity behind it. So that's
Hmm.
why you have all the schlock that came out. Kind of
Yeah,
like the 50s had great science fiction and horror, and the 60s didn't. The 60s ended up kind of, cheesing on it a lot and making exploitation movies a lot and that sort of thing. But the
well,
70s
and
and
toward
80s, I mean, we went everywhere from Exorcist to Halloween to, you know,
Well, and
Nightmare,
even the
all the,
80s, you had, Nightmare on Elm Street and Fright Night and Return of the Living Dead.
yeah,
Back then, they were still practical effects. But what I was going to lead up to, and this is just me hypothesizing, but you also had the boom of the videotape business. And by the 80s, there was a lot of like late 80s, direct to video
yep,
crap. And that
yep,
may have spilled over into the 90s as well, especially with the CGI stuff because it was cheap and you could get it out there fast. So that
yeah.
could be part of it too.
And you're also beating a dead horse if it's all slasher movies. You know what I mean? So
Hmm.
it's kind of like they had to wait till they got to like a Blair Witch or a Scream, which is making essentially fun of the entire genre itself, and but a
Hmm.
unique, something very unique to kind of stand out of this muck of just everybody's a serial killer kind of movie.
Yeah, they dwell a lot on the J horror stuff in the late 90s, which essentially did kind of revolutionize movie making in America because, like you said, it was something different. It was not a
Hmm.
slasher movie or an I Know What You Did Last Summer. It was like, what is this crazy possessed demon coming out of the well and out of my television set, that kind of thing. We've never
Yeah,
seen that before. And then all of a sudden, as we get into the 2000s and even mainly the 2010s is when I think all the originality started coming back
right.
with the
Agreed.
Flanagans and the Ty Wests and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Again, niches that nobody else was doing. Whether it's
Mhm.
Ty with all of his retro sort of production value and everything,
It's like, I
or
love the
Mike
80s. Let's
Flanagan.
make it look like the 80s.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan with, incredible plotting and character development in very confined spaces. So yeah.
Or Ari Aster doing Hereditary and Midsommar and taking old ideas and modernizing them and just
Hmm.
so dark, very, very dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
So
Oh, my world of horror.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the